Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only podcast where a Norris and a Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of F1 and actually, hopefully, stay friendly during a season and this podcast. My name is John and I'll be your host today, and with me is the man with the best hair in the business, finally wearing it down. It's none other than James Hazel.
I'm still a Hamilton fan.
I know, but I had to do this one.
I know. Yeah, hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm quite all right, mate. I ask you, can we still be friends after the Grand Prix?
Yeah, of course we can. Yeah,
Good. We're true professionals.
we are, yeah.
You're not getting your share of the royalties this week, though. It's good, man. Well, did you have fun this weekend? This is the question I always ask. Did you have fun, James?
I had a lot of fun, yeah. Sprint race was good. Main race was good. Got a lot to cover in this podcast, probably. I had a good time, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we still have a good time after this show, because we
Oh.
definitely have something to talk about in this race review podcast for the Austria Grand Prix. Shall I try to recap it, James?
Go for it. I'm looking forward to this one.
All right. So Red Bull dominated FP1. A Red Bull dominated quali. A Red Bull dominated sprint. Red Bull dominated the qualifying itself. And Max was dominating the race until later on, where due to two pretty bad pit stops, we had the fight of the year. And actually, when I said Red Bull, I mean Max, but I really have to stop hating on Perez. So let's see where that ends this podcast. And after Max and Lando's friendship came to an abrupt end, we'll talk about that later, George actually won the race. Also, Nico Hulkenberg had a blast driving, getting Haas some really, really good and well-deserved points. But everyone seems to be forgetting about that because Lando was voted driver of the day instead. And then there's Sargent. Oh, poor Sargent, who did have some damage. But to Austria, I think he had some good views because he was just cruising and enjoying the view. Someone that didn't have a great race was Charles Leclerc, who had to pit in lap 1 due to damage and finished just outside the points. Talking about points, that's all I do about Aston Martin talking about it because Stroll extended his contract, did beat Fernando this weekend, but that team keeps looking pretty abysmal and won't get anywhere near the points anytime soon. Pierre Gasly also extended his contract and finished on a respectable 10th position once again. The Alpine still looks off the pace, but they definitely made some steps forward. Plus, it is a pretty cool looking car, in my honest opinion. We almost forgot about Daniel Ricciardo delivering his second point scoring finish in 3 Grand Prix, finishing at the 9th position. Today, we'll talk about, of course, Max versus Lando. We'll talk maybe a little bit about Daniel Ricciardo. We'll definitely have to talk about Stroll's extension, maybe a little bit about still Perez's extension. And James, where is Carlos Sainz ending up? We'll find it out in today's show. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready, yeah.
This is a hard one to summarize, though, because we did have some good racing.
There's some brilliant racing. That's like the best racing at the front of the field we've had since like the beginning of 2022 and the 2021 season. Yeah, it's just a shame that it ended the way that it ended, but it looked like pretty much from the second overtake attempt that it was probably going to end up going that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. Maybe we just dive into that focus point, shall we? Right away, James.
Yeah, let's do it.
Get it out of the way, because, mate, as a Dutchie, when something happens with Max in a negative, like if Max makes Formula One boring, but if something happens, especially when there's a newsman involved somewhere, my DMs just blow up everywhere.
Yeah, I am surprised.
We invented dirty driving.
No.
I fought all weekend trying to explain that the so-called Max rule, the moving on the braking rule, was already gone in 2010. 19, 20, 17, somewhere there. We had
I
that
think,
one season. It's done.
yeah. They're moving on to braking things, kind of being before it became a rule for a while, it was kind of a gentleman's agreement anyway, wasn't it? Like not to do that because it can lead to accidents. Because if they make their move, they're probably going to be braking late because they're trying to overtake. And if someone then reacts to that move, they're putting really both drivers in a bit of a difficult position. I mean, a clear case of that I can think of is Ricardo and Max at Baku a few years ago.
Yeah, but I think the biggest issue is moving twice while defending. And that's a certain rule.
Yeah, but if I think if someone's committed to a line going into the braking point, then if that person behind them then makes a move, it does put them in a difficult position rather if the defending car then makes another move. So if they're kind of sat in the middle of the road and the person behind decides to dive down the inside and the person in front then moves to cover the inside, it's on the line. It's very edgy, I think, because you know they're driving on the limit already, and then you're expecting the person behind to then safely kind of maneuver away from them.
So I thought the first attack was a little bit optimistic. The second one was a pure dive bomb by Lando.
It's a dive bomb, but I don't like how this has become like the phrase for it in the media after this race, because that's like Max's signature move. That's what he does, and then he's getting it done to him.
Lando didn't make the turn though. So
well, on one of them he didn't. On one of them he did, and he made the turn. He was first to the apex, which this is what I don't like, because this is what Max does, and I've never had a problem when Max does it. He goes to the inside. He brakes super late. And this is why I always say, like, you can never give Max the inside line, because if you give Max the inside line, all he's going to do is wait for you to brake slightly later, get the apex first. Whether he makes the corner correctly or not, it doesn't matter. He's won the apex by being late, and then wins the corner like that. And then the person on the outside is just expected to back off. Now, on the occasion where Lando did that, Max, really, he shouldn't have been able to retake the position again from being off track, because Lando won the apex the same way Max always does. He took the corner, he stayed fully on track. Max went off track. Well, really, Max should have just surrendered the position at that point to stay on track, because the corner's Lando's through being first to the apex. The time when Lando did go off track, I think, yeah, he was probably going to struggle to make that anyway, but I think he was slightly put out and
frustrated by the first.
Well, no, Max made his late defense again, and I think that interrupted Lando's braking, and I think that did contribute to how deep into the corner Lando went and how far off track he ended up going. But he then immediately surrendered the position and gave it back, which he has to do, because he effectively, he gained advantage by going off track. So that's fair enough. The final attempt down the outside, that was 100% on Max. I don't see how anyone can argue.
Let's try it.
Okay, go on then.
Okay. Just to be sure, just to make sure, this is let's start with this. Max got a penalty for this, 100% deserved.
Yep.
Done. All right? But here's my argument. Still not saying Max is correct. Okay? So try to, please, don't.
I'm pretty sure I know where this is going, but I'm listening.
This move in Austria on this turn has happened year after year after year after year after year.
Yep.
I can find at least 10 examples.
Yep.
Where the one on the inside brakes later, sort of moves outside a little bit to make the corner, but also to force the other driver in giving up. Happened last year, Sainz on the inside, Max on the outside. Happened the year before, Max on the inside, Lewis on the outside. And normally, the one on the outside just takes the curb, because the curb is just flat, goes on the curb, and then takes the inside to overtake. the other way around with Sainz. When Max won, Max went on the outside, hit the curb, went on the inside, overtook Sainz there. That's what usually happens. Lando did not move into the curb, but hold the line. I think if Lando goes on the curb, he can cut inside on Max after the turn makes, and he beats him square and fair at that point. So the squeezing off, the fact they hit 100%, that's a penalty deservingly. But I don't want to call it dirty driving or all the insults I saw coming in this weekend, because this is what every single racing driver does in Austria, no matter which class, no matter which car, no matter as the moment it goes on points, they all do it there. They did it in turn 1 on, I think, Perez on Stroll. They did it last year, and they did it on the sprint qualifying on the sprint race as well. And every single time, the one on the outside moves on the curb, take the inside and overtakes it there because he has DRS. This one, Lando stayed foot. That's why they touched. Is it a penalty? Yes, because Max is the one that's actually causing the collision. So that's 100% fair. But I think if Lando just goes outside, don't be frustrated / a little bit stubborn / maybe a little bit more experienced, he just takes the win after it and it's still done. So I don't want to call it a dirty move. It is a deserving penalty, but that's exactly my stance. And I'm not going to. That's my foot in the sand, the line in the sand.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a dirty move. I completely agree that it's not a dirty move. What I would say, excuse me, my throat. What I would say is that it is not, just because other people have moved out of the way before, it is not Lando's responsibility to do that. Like, he has no obligation to do that. He's on his line. He's picked his line, and he can just stay to it. And I think Lando was correct to do that, because Max is very used to kind of getting his elbows out and bullying people a little bit on track with, late moves, pushing people wide, that sort of thing. And he tried to do that going into that corner, and I think Lando just decided, I'm not doing that. If Max has said it before himself, he's basically said before, in a situation like that, I'm not moving. If you want to go there, we'll just have a collision. And I think Norris took that stand, and I think it was the correct thing to do, because now Max is probably going to think, I can't really do that to Norris, or I might come off worse off next time.
Well, here's my so I get what you're saying, and that's the argument I've been getting all weekend. And I partially agree with what you're saying. You have to draw a line in the sand somewhere as well on that point. But it's not that Max wants to force. He's nothing to gain with a crash either, right?
No, it doesn't.
And I think Norris has things to lose here.
I don't know if he does. I don't know if he does personally, because he's not. Okay,
he throws away a win, honestly, here himself.
Yeah, but he's not in the championship.
But he does throw away a win for someone that won one race so far. I don't think that's some I seriously think any other driver, including Lewis Hamilton, right, would go on the curb and just overtake on the inside, and that would happen. If it would happen this week, this lap, it would take the other.
I don't think Lewis would do that this year. Personally, I think Lewis would probably do what Lando did, because Lewis has got nothing to gain, or he's got nothing to lose. He's not fighting for a championship, just like Lando isn't. Max is the one kind of running away with the championship again. Chasing, he's chasing his win percentage or whatever. He's chasing total win records and stuff like that, or at least he's on course to do it as he is at the moment. Norris, he's only just got his first win. I think Norris is looking at it as, I've got nothing to lose. Max has got everything to lose. He's, it's a surefire win for Max normally when he's going to throw it down the drain by colliding. And I think, at the end of the day, Max went to defend. Lando changed his position and went to the outside, picked his line. And once Max has moved to the inside to defend, if he moves back towards the racing line, he then has to leave a car's width. And he didn't leave that. Yes, Lando could have gone off onto the curb a little bit.
No, but that is why when they touched, it was his fault, period. I mean,
exactly. Yeah.
100%. You have to leave a car's width. You can, my opinion is that if Lando was smart, he would take the outside. He doesn't need to. 100% correct there as well. So when they collide, it is 100% on Max.
Yeah.
And my point was, I think Lando could have been smarter about it, but that's just my take, maybe.
I don't know if it's necessarily smarter. I think this was about sending a message in a way because,
I'd rather send a message being first and then say.
Well, I don't know because this time last week we were talking about Lando kind of getting a little bit scared when he's around Max. He went to defend Max off the start in the race last weekend, and
last weekend is the same example. Sorry that I interrupted you, but if Max crashes there, it was 100% Lando's fault, and nobody blinked tonight because it didn't happen.
Yeah,
right. And I thought that was a far dirtier move than this one.
Yeah, it probably was, but Norris has got nothing to lose. That's what I'm getting at. Is that I think, especially this weekend, like ignoring last weekend, I think this weekend, Lando's tried to make a couple of moves. Max has really been on the edge with his defending, I think, and I think a lot of people would agree with that. And then I think Norris has just kind of said, enough's enough here. Like, I'm going to make this move now, but I'm not yielding again. I keep yielding to you. I'm not yielding. And I think that was the right thing to do, because certainly going forward, Max, he's not going to think he can bully Norris like that now, because if he does, there might be a crash. And is all Norris is really doing is giving Max the same treatment that Max has given other drivers in the past. So
Max wasn't complaining last week either, right? He said, I'd probably do the same. So,
but what I'd say is, Max has given up potential race wins or podiums or whatever, doing the same thing to other people in the past, and no one's kind of, everyone said, well, Max is kind of just standing his ground and being the tough guy and sending the message to the grid, I'm not going to be bullied as the young driver on the grid against, these veterans or whatever. And all I think Lando's doing is giving Max a taste of his own medicine. And I think Lando was 100% correct to do what he did. He lost a win, but in the long term, I think he's gained in fights with Max going forward. I think he's gained a little bit of, I don't know how to word it.
I get what you're saying.
Respect or fear, but he's sent a message to Max to say, look, yeah, we're buddies off the track, or at least they were. But when we're on track and we've got our elbows out, you're not pushing me around like that. And I think that was the right thing for Lando to do. And yeah, it cost them a win, but they're still looking good for the championship. They've still clearly got the second fastest car on the grid, potentially very close. It's very close to being on par with the Red Bull at this point. And in fact, I'd say that it's got at least one advantage over the Red Bull, and that's his tyre management. Red Bull were the masters of that last year, and I think...
Oh, they did throw away 7-second lead, though. Like, literally
they
threw
did.
Away.
But, I do think the McLaren is at a point where it's got one or two advantages over the Red Bull. Like, overall, the Red Bull is clearly the better package. Like you just said, Max 7 seconds down the road. But I think McLaren's still a very good car. I think they have the potential to fight for wins in the future, this season at least. And I think that's why Lando fought and pushed the way that he did, because when they fight next time, Max, he's gonna maybe not bully as hard as he sometimes does.
Oh, I probably won't change, but I agree with your stance there, though. Well, good thing for Silverstone is they suddenly start selling tickets again.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, England.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean that's a completely separate topic, but Silverstone's problem is its pricing more than anything. But yeah.
Yeah. I think Alex Brundle, he said on the. I need to get this off my chest. Sometimes these Sky representatives on TV, mate, they're a little bit too judgmental straight off the bat.
I think I'm gonna step in briefly, just because I don't think it's necessarily judgmental. I think the problem is that all the broadcasting has fallen into the trap of Drive to Survive, and they're trying to dramatize everything. I think that's the problem, and it is frustrating. It's why I struggle to read any of the like sporting media now.
Well, the friendship is now over, but actually the question was, do you blame Max? And Norris says, well, if he doesn't admit he was wrong, I will probably lose some respect. And the headline
Yeah.
was, friendship between Max and Lando is over.
Yeah, which is not what either of them is saying. I think when Lando cools off, and I think when Max gives him that little bit of space and reflects on the fight, I think. Well, I was going to say,
I think Max already in a statement. He said in a statement, I think, saying, "I didn't expect Lando to go on the outside, so when he did, I thought he would have more than enough space. Looking at the footage, it's a bit clumsy. I probably didn't leave enough space, so the penalty is fair."
yeah, and I think if Max and Lando talk about that, that's fine. I think the problem for Max sometimes is that he drives for Red Bull, unfortunately, and I think.
Well, Toto believed not very much longer.
Well, I think GP as his engineer is. I mean, I know they've got to be biased, and they're fighting for what they're, for their victory or whatever. But some of the stuff GP was saying over the radio, I thought was absolute rubbish, to say it politely. And I think what Christian said after the race was just. I thought it was atrocious, really.
I think the same with Stella afterwards as well.
But I don't agree with that necessarily. I think what Christian said, saying that Lando knew he had a 5-second penalty because he went off track, so he was trying to cause something. He's accusing Lando of trying to deliberately causing a collision. I can't stand that. I think.
No, but Stella said the same about Max trying to force them both off. And I'm like, nobody wins from that either, so that's not true either, right? So
no,
but I definitely agree with what Christian Horner said was too much.
I think Christian completely crossed the line by saying that. I mean, I'm not his biggest fan anyway.
Oh, you should notes down.
And all the stuff that's come out like during the winter break and is still kind of bubbling in the background, waiting for. There was rumours that there's going to be legal action going to like a tribunal or whatever in the UK, and all this stuff. I think more of that's going to come out. And
he's a bully, mate.
He is
fair and square. I mean, you heard about Jos Verstappen this weekend?
Oh, he was going to drive in the Legends Parade or whatever, and Christian was doing everything possible to prevent it. Yeah, I think Christian is the reason why Newey's leaving. And I think he will be the downfall of Red Bull eventually. Unless he is, unless something finally comes to light that does actually kind of topple him.
Enforce something, yeah.
And cause him to be booted out. Because his attitude, like that sort of thing, like those sort of accusations, like you can't be saying stuff like that. I just think that's completely wrong and inappropriate.
So I said last week as well. I actually hope Max is going to Mercedes because one, I like the way Toto is now reacting to stuff that's so different than we used to. And I think that would be like a good team to redevelop things as well. So, but
I think Toto at the moment is he's cooled off a little bit now that they're not in like a championship fight and it's not as heated between him and Christian. I think really Toto shouldn't have started to stoop down to Christian's level with like the staring and the all the complaints and the kind of backhand compliments or whatever that they make about each other in interviews and stuff like that. But lately, I think Toto he's turned into a little bit of a character, like the way he jumped on the radio to kind of like
in the braking zone.
Yeah, come on, George, we can win this. And George is like, just leave me to race. And it turns out he was in a braking zone when he did that. And then Toto afterwards was saying like, that's the stupidest thing he's ever done as a team principal in the last however long he's
I
done it.
appreciate that though.
I thought that was quite funny, yeah. And I think Max would be a good fit at Mercedes, and I think he just needs to get away from. There's just an element of toxicity around Red Bull that I think he would benefit from being away from. And there seems to be this kind of like feuding between British fans and Dutch fans over Max and Lewis and other British drivers, and this kind of bad blood about it. And I think part of it is just this kind of heated environment that Max drives within, driving as a Red Bull driver. And I think if he went to another team, I think some of that might simmer down as well.
Yeah, but we had the same with Schumacher and English fans, so I don't think it's...
Yeah, true, yeah.
I think English fans, because most of the media, the broadcasters English as well, is just hurt the most. And if it's not the English drivers winning, it's felt the hardest. But that's just how this...
And what's funny about English fans is that we are also probably the hardest of all the countries in the world on our own talent. At the moment, Euros are going on, we're just slating the British team or the English team, which apparently, they're not doing very well. But they're awful to our own drivers as well. Like, you go on a BBC website, or just on social media in general, you'll see more British fans slating their own drivers. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a Dutch fan giving Max any grief.
Well, I don't think you see any Dutch fan saying it wasn't a penalty for Max, for example. All the frustration comes from the fact it feels like it feels like Lando, but also the internet as well, perhaps, just acts like Max tried to kill him there, and demanding an apology, and now we have to talk. It feels like a little bit of angry teenage middle school thing going on. And I'm like, yeah, you forgot about Barcelona a week ago, which could also end up badly. Plus, this was a plain error. You apologize for it now. Yeah, he was unlucky with the end result where Lando was his DNF and Max actually scored some points. Could easily be the other way around.
I think
Max was at fault as the collision, but it wasn't as bad as everyone tries to make it out.
No, but I think the other thing to remember here as well is a great interview that Sebastian Vettel did when he stepped in, I think, for Hamilton. Maybe it was, or it might have been Max even, I can't remember. And basically told the media, stop judging us based on what we say when we're full of adrenaline and when we're in the heat of the moment. I can't remember what he said. It was something along the lines of...
because it's one of the only sports where you actually have the ability to hear the athletes on their peak performance moments recorded. Like if you're sitting next to a pitch in football, you hear some things. If you watch the NBA and you sit front row, you hear some things.
Yeah.
But else you won't hear anything they say. And even footballers get better at it by just hiding whatever they say.
Exactly. I think that was one of the examples he said. He said if you mic'd up a football team and then heard them when they're getting a yellow card or whatever, then you'd hear similar stuff that they would probably regret saying after they've cooled down a little bit. So again, I don't like to judge what they say when they're in the car in the heat of the moment too much. Even that 15, 20 minutes when they're in the press paddock after the race, they need a day to kind of adrenaline to cool down and dissipate or whatever, and emotions to cool down, and for them to just sleep on it and reflect on it, and then they might have a different opinion the next day. So
almost time for the next topic.
Yeah.
And the only thing I wanted to say, if you actually want to ruin someone's race in Austria, you do it in turn 4 with the gravel next to it, like accidentally happened with Lewis and Piastri last year. You don't do it in turn 3 where there's tarmac all over the place.
Yeah, just Perez did it to Piastri this year on the first first lap. Perez should have got a penalty for that, really, but I think they ended up dismissing it just because Piastri managed to then overtake him later on. So
yeah, you can decide the next topic though. Here he comes, Gus. this argument out of the way, I think we settled this fairly honestly, though. So much to talk about. Congratulations to Russell. He was there to pick up the pieces, I think. Best of the rest. And now it's definitely best of the rest for the remains. We said we don't think we have a fight for a Hanford Championship. I definitely think that's now the case for sure. Right? With Leclerc dropping off. So much to discuss. Do we want to discuss the contract extension of Stroll, perhaps?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay. Why? And what's going on with Aston Martin?
Well, the obvious reason why is because his dad runs the team.
No, you can't say that. It's talent.
I mean, he's proven himself on track over the last 12 months to be a competent and capable driver.
Just not good at interviews, or not especially a marketing machine.
Yeah, capable of achieving the odd point here and there for Aston Martin. He shouldn't be in Formula One, I don't think. I mean, you could say that about a couple of drivers at the moment. Sargent, obviously, but it looks like he won't be.
I have to make a correction for Sargent. Oh, actually, Williams and Albon made a correction for Sargent, and I have to do that one as well. Last week, I spoke about David Coulthard making fun of Logan Sargent because Logan Sargent parked his car into a bollard.
Yep.
On the train. They do a podcast where the drivers are in at Williams, and Albon was laughing really hard because it was actually his car.
Oh, was it?
And he said it wasn't even against the bollard because it was just so close towards it that it was just perfectly parked. Right. So I have to take it up for Sargent there. And Sargent just laughed it off. And I was like, okay, I might have to say that on the podcast as well.
Yeah, I suppose we should. So yeah, fair play to Sargent.
This is the official summary for Aston Martin this weekend. Aston Martin's difficult run has continued into Austria as the Red Bull Ring's high-speed corners highlighted this car's weaknesses. One of them, I think. Lance Stroll was hampered by damage he picked up early, and while he made a couple of passes, points proved a step too far. End of story. That's it. But the cars look good.
I mean, it looks nice. I like the colour scheme. I like the paint job. It's not a fast car, clearly. I think, once again, what's happening is, they started the season not too bad. They were kind of just there and abouts in the midfield, weren't they? Now they're kind of a little bit further back and struggling. I think this just highlights once again that they can't, for whatever reason.
Last year they were fighting for wins around this time.
Yeah, but then they dropped off again.
Yeah,
and it's the same this time. Only they started further back to begin with, and they're dropping even further back now.
Yeah,
and the problem is that they can't seem to develop during like the seasonal development race during the mid-season. Yeah, I think I talked about this at the beginning of last year when we were talking about, there was all this hype around Aston Martin, and then it turned out to be true, and I thought, yeah, it's going to be good for a few races. It's not going to last. It's happening again this year. They're just, you got Fernando Alonso tootling around in like 17th position. Fernando Alonso
and causing collisions.
Well, yeah. that what was he doing? I don't know. But
I know what he's trying to do. He thought, hey, he's going, maybe I can tag along with
that.
Yeah,
he's trying to be very optimistic, thinking that gap's going to stay there and I can dive into that. That was too optimistic from Mr.
10
Alonso.
second penalties for Fernando.
Yeah, so they're not progressing the car during the season like other teams do. Ferrari have fallen into that a little bit this year. They're not keeping up with some of the other teams around them.
With Haas.
Haas have, I don't know whether this race was an outlier for them. They went on a weird strategy compared to some of the others, didn't they? They did a 3-stop, but it worked. And they got both cars into the points.
Nico Hülkenberg, 6th.
Yep. Magnussen was 8th.
Yep.
So even ignoring the collision and Norris ending up DNF, they were both legitimately in the points before anyone up front disappeared in front of them.
Faster than Perez.
Yeah. Which, that's just shocking for
Damage.
Perez.
Damage.
Oh yeah.
This is the narrative I don't like. I can't. I'm sorry. I have to do it. It's my. Maybe I should make a tune for this. Welcome to the weekly Paris rant from Joel.
Yeah, we do need it. Needs to be some sort of comical jingle.
Oh, I got one of those though. That helps.
Maybe.
Yeah, let's try that. Let's try this one. So this week on Paris Does Things. So James, if you crash and you get damage, or if at least you get hit and get damage, there's also one way to beat that, and that's to make sure you don't start on 8 tenths from your teammate.
You could try doing that when you're in the fastest car on the grid. I was thinking about this earlier on. Before we started the podcast, I was thinking about points of discussion and how things are going to go as we talk about things. There's always this kind of comparison between teammates, and that's fair because they're the only two drivers on the grid. Teammates are the only drivers that you can really truly compare against each other because they're in the same machinery, unless one of them happens to get upgrades first because they're kind of number one driver or whatever. If you look at, you got Lando and Piastri. Those two are usually pretty close to each other. They drive at a similar level. I'd say Norris is slightly faster majority of the time. Okay, Piastri beat Norris in the sprint race this weekend. You've got Sainz and Leclerc. Them two are basically on par at the moment.
There's 44 points between Norris and Piastri now in the constructors. Leclerc and Sainz are 15 points apart.
But when you look at the races where there's not kind of something weird happening, like one of them just DNFs or one of them ends up having a poor qualifying for whatever reason, it might just be that they get the timing wrong and they don't make it across the timing line to start their last lap in Q3, like this weekend, for example. But like Leclerc and Sainz, they are on par. Like there is nothing splitting them at the moment. They are equal drivers, driving very well together.
Most teammates are.
Yeah. Hamilton and Russell.
26 points apart.
Russell outdriving Hamilton so far this year.
Yeah, but just 26 points apart. So it's not even a major difference.
It's not a lot.
He takes 25 points this week. So
yeah, and I don't want to play the card, but it's going to seem like I'm just a Hamilton fan. But Hamilton's had a bit of bad luck as well. Some of it he's just qualified poorly. He used to be like a qualifying guru, master. One lap pace was phenomenal from Lewis. That's kind of dropped off in the last couple of years. And certainly this year, Russell's out-qualifying him. And yet, like this weekend, Hamilton got some damage in his collision with Sainz. I think Hamilton giving up that position was maybe not the right thing to do. I think that probably would have gone down as no further action because it's just a first lap incident, getting an advantage going off track. He was forced and pushed off track. But yeah, Russell and Hamilton, very close together. Leclerc and Sainz, very close together. Piastri and Norris, very close together. Max,
just
Sergio,
119 points too.
They're miles apart all the time. Perez, last season, beginning of the season, he was at least taking it to Max a little bit. He's been nowhere all season. Perez has
118 points, 118.
Yeah.
And the difference with Max is 119.
Yeah.
So there's a bigger gap than that he actually has points.
Yeah, Max has more than doubled him.
We're 11 races in.
It's embarrassing for Perez is what it is, really.
It's embarrassing for Red Bull and it's embarrassing for Formula One. Here that I said it.
Yeah.
You can't get 8 in ninth, 8. I think he got 8 in the sprint. Well, Max won the sprint. And he qualified 9 tenths almost. 8 something. So 9 tenths of a second behind Verstappen in one of the shortest tracks in Formula One.
That's what makes it worse.
It would be a 1.5 second in Silverstone. I don't want to see what happened next week on qualifying.
And the thing that's frustrating is that they've given him a 2-year contract extension
with a clause.
But well, probably, yeah, definitely. They had Pierre Gasly in the car and booted him out halfway through a season. They had Albon in a car, booted him out.
He finished the season. So
Why? Yeah, okay, yeah, he finished the season, but they just, they just unceremoniously just kicked him out. He's not good enough or whatever. And yet they're carrying on with Perez. Why are they not kicking him out and looking for someone else that could get Sainz in?
why can't Perez look at the mirror and see what he's doing wrong? That's even like there's so
Perez,
much frustrating. I mean, it's the team I support, right? Because Maxon is in it.
Yeah.
But it's frustrating to see they get him a 2 years extension while he's not performing. It's frustrating to see that every time he get in his story afterwards was, I got damaged, major gap in my side bolt. I couldn't do much this year, and I'm happy with the points. But mate, you finished the last 6 races not hitting the podium on the one of the best cars on the hit.
Exactly.
And
that's the problem.
You're miles away from your teammate, and you're making a fool out of yourself trying to blame it on everything else except I wasn't good enough. At least Daniel Ricciardo, for which, I mean, he's actually performing now currently pretty well.
Yeah.
But he says, I don't know what's going wrong. I'm having a look at the data. I'm doing everything I can, etc. This just isn't good enough. But at least I got more respect for someone like that not getting the performance in than someone that's just blaming the outside world but never look in. And that's in a cutthroat business in Formula One. And, I've got a football history and we're doing a lot of football analysis stuff as well. That ruthlessness, maybe that's just my Dutch bluntness, but sometimes you got to say how things are, right? Especially in sports. You just have 20 spots in this in this business. There's 20 spots. There's so much talent going on. Sainz don't even have a place next year yet. And we're looking at this in one of the top cars.
Yeah. I mean, your Ricciardo point, I had respect for Ricciardo for that, for at least turning around and saying, like, I need to do better. It was always me. I'm the issue. I'm the problem. And yeah, I think there was a little bit about a chassis issue at one
After
point.
they got the new chassis, he went on performing. So
yeah, and that's what he had to do, because if he's blaming the tools and they give him a better tool, he has to then perform or he looks like an idiot. And he did. He's turned around and he said, okay, the chassis was a bit of an issue. Give him a new chassis, he does better. And he was also saying, I need to do better. I should be doing better than this. Like, it's not good enough for me. I'm studying the data. I'm comparing myself to Yuki, whatever, looking at what we're doing. And he has improved. He's basically gone and done his homework, come back a better driver, or certainly currently is. Perez, I mean, you asked, why isn't he looking in the mirror? He kind of doesn't have any incentive to now, because Red Bull have turned around and said, yeah, this is good enough. Even if they haven't said to him this is good enough, they effectively have by saying, here's a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
Carry on. Like, it's just disappointing is what it is.
It's a bad look for the sport. It's a bad look for the team.
It's a bad look for the team.
And I feel so sorry for Sainz.
Yeah. I mean, Sainz is...
If I see him this weekend again, I mean, he just outperforms the car capabilities.
Yeah.
And
Sainz, if Sainz was in that fortunate position of having, like, one of the best cars on the grid, and also being, like, a number one driver, or just being better than his teammate rather than being very evenly matched like he seems to be with Leclerc at the moment, he has it in him to win a world championship, I think.
Yeah.
Like, if he was in, like, an example I can think of would be like the Braun GP year, 2009, I think it was, wasn't it? Like, if he was in Button's shoes, like, if he was in that situation now, he could and would win a world championship. And he's currently without a seat for next year, and his options aren't very good. Certainly not going to be fighting for podiums next year, I wouldn't have thought. Like, where's he going to go?
Mercedes.
Will he go to Mercedes? I don't know if Mercedes are even going to take him, because I think Sainz wants some sort of long-term commitment. Or does he? I don't know. I think if he wants to go to a team like Mercedes, he wants long-term commitment, because his worry will be that he'll get booted out from them next because they'll want Antonelli in the seat.
Still better than no seat in Formula One. I think that's where
Well, it is.
Well, he might overplay his cards, but hey, I think we have to put the Saints discussion on its own on a different show.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it's just I find it frustrating, and that's why I said I might actually need a topic every week for it, because maybe we should just have a topic next week, again an introduction saying this week's clown of the race, and then maybe get a soundbite from Perez most
Yeah,
of the time,
maybe.
perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's always going to be Perez or Sargent is the problem. They are
Or
the
Stroll.
two. Maybe Stroll.
Although I
mean,
did not
Stroll,
get the first DNF right this week, with it being Lando.
Yeah. I mean, as long as Stroll finishes the race, he tends to not quite be the clown because he just ends up being invisible. It's when he DNFs that he comes to the forefront of everyone's attention because it's normally stupid mistakes, like
hitting someone
when he went into the wall in Jeddah, or I think it was Jeddah, wasn't it?
Or when he hits the Ricardo on safety car.
Yeah, stuff like that. But yeah,
what are they doing? Oh well, let's not go there. Yeah, poor Charles. Let's put it like that. Poor Charles. Also, if I'm driving a Ferrari and I'm Charles Leclerc and I'm coming behind Sargent, I'm fighting Sargent most of the race, and my car is that badly damaged, I'd save the engine. Honestly.
Yeah, they should have just retired him. I don't know why they were saying on the radio, "Come on, we're in it for points."
If another 3 cars would crash, maybe. Or he actually finished 11, I think, but still.
Yeah, exactly. But that's it. At that point,
safety engine, and make sure maybe saves you a penalty later on in the season. I mean,
yeah,
I don't get that. Are you ready for the predictions, though? Because James, let's have a look at the current standing of the thing. I think the current standing is 20 points to you, 16 points to me. You said the pole position is going to go to Max, and I said the pole position is going to go to Lando. Boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, Lando, sorry, Max just dominated.
21 for you.
Qualifying time was phenomenal.
I said Max would win. You said Max would win. Well, we were both wrong, although we can see where that's coming from. James, the first DNF, you said it has to be Logan Sargent, but he refused. Driving on 3 wheels, cruising 80 miles an hour, just enjoying the Austin views, but not
luck charm. I think I'm his good luck charm. He needs to start paying me to predict him to DNF.
Maybe we can create a little bit of that wobbly head and put that one on his dash with your hair on it. Maybe he gets in the points. So it was still 2016. You said Sargent not going to make it. I was close though, because I said Checo.
Yeah.
But didn't get hit hard enough, which is a weird thing to say. The Q1 gap between pole, James, was the bonus question.
You got this dead on near enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question that I gave last week was, what would be the cutoff time? So what would be or not the actual time? What would be the distance from Q1 to being cut off, basically? So Q1 to P16.
Yes.
I predicted 0.7 of a second. You predicted 0.5 of a second. In my defense, I forgot how fast and short the Nürburgring, the Red Bull Ring is. So a bit of schoolboy error from me there. But yeah, that was a good prediction from you because I think 0.5 was around 0.5 of a second.
Yeah, so it was between first, like number 1 and 16, basically, right?
Yeah. Basically, how far back is P16 in
so
Q1?
The difference is lap time by Max was 105.336, and lap time number 16 from Albon 105.736. So 0.4 exactly.
Yeah. So even faster than we both predicted. But yeah, you were closest, so you get the point for that one.
Yes, so that means also with 1 point gained by me, 1 point gained by you. 21-17 so far, James. Brings us to Silverstone. Do we have a sprint there? I hope not.
I don't think we do, since we had one here. Let's look at the schedule, if I can bring it up quickly. Otherwise, we'll just assume not.
I also already have it from a no race qualifying P1, 3, 2, and 3. So we have a regular race going on this week, which is good, I think. because my heart can only take so much in one weekend. James,
Yeah.
who's going to end up on pole?
No, I'm going to say Lando.
Okay. I'm going to say Max. Then who's going to win?
I kind of want to say Lando again, but I'm going to go with Lando. I mean, yeah, this isn't just like British bias.
That's all right.
I'm kind of going off the fact that the it's a very fast circuit, and the McLaren is fast. So yeah, it'd be really nice if Lando won it as well. But yeah,
I'm going to say Max. Let's see if we can increase or decrease the gap.
At the beginning of the season, we were saying we might have to change some of these questions because it feels like it's too easy to predict. And now it does genuinely feel like difficult questions because I think between the two of them, they both have a legitimate shot at pole and winning the race.
Yes.
Which is very exciting for Formula One.
Definitely. Who's the first DNF in the race?
You go first. You have a turn to go first.
I'm going to go with... Let's say I'm going to go with George.
Really?
Yeah, he has a good habit of taking people out on the straights there. So
I'm going to go with Joe Guan Yu. I'm going to guess
he's going to get it down, isn't he?
He's going to get flipped and end up in not just a barrier, but in the like metal mesh fencing again.
I don't know who was the first last time. If it was Joe who counted as in the fence or
between him and Russell. Really,
George stepping out of the car. But okay.
Yeah.
If that happens again, we'll do a tie. We're deserving of a tie.
Yeah, because I think and really neither of them were first or second in that. They were both equally DNFing at the
same time. James, here's the multi-million-dollar question. In what position is Perez going to qualify?
Qualify? Okay. 7th.
Oh, you got faith, my friend.
I don't know if that's 5th. I mean, he should be qualifying like 3rd or 4th in that Red Bull, really. But yeah, 7th I'll go with.
This was a harder question than I actually thought I would be.
Yeah, I mean, is Perez, who knows? Does he make it through Q1? We'll find out on Saturday.
The weird thing is, he did not do that last year. Well, I think he made it to Q1, but he did make it to Q2. So 8.
Oh, you're going 8th? Okay.
Yep. So you say Perez starts at 7th or below. And I say he's going to finish 8th or below. 7th or higher, or 8th or below.
Yeah.
That's an interesting prediction.
Yeah.
And maybe we can introduce the new topic of the show next week as well, man.
Yeah, we'll cover that during our Clown of the Week.
This is not the time where we close the show, James, but I've got one question for you. Sent in by one of our biggest fans in the US, Andrew. He says, I don't understand F1 penalties. Max with some pretty dirty driving today. Oh, not going to continue that topic, but he takes out Lando, but he only gets a 10-second penalties. Why are penalties so weak? It seems to be encouraging what Max was doing.
Penalties this season are actually harsher than they were last season. And that's because there used to be some 5-second penalties that, again, people would turn around and say, what's the point? They can do whatever they need to do that would earn them a 5-second penalty, but then drive 5 seconds away, and it's not a problem. Penalties, really, they don't look at the outcome of whatever the reason for the penalty was. So in the example of Max and Lando, the fact that Lando didn't finish the race and had to DNF the car has no bearing on Max getting a 10-second penalty. That's just the rules. That's what the teams, the drivers, and the sport agrees to. And a 10-second penalty might seem like nothing for Max because, he's often more than 10 seconds up the road. Or if he's not 10 seconds up the road from the next driver, it might be that there's only 1 or 2 drivers within that 10-second period that he gets a penalty for. And in this example, this weekend, he pits because he gets a puncture from the collision and he comes back out and he's actually way more than 10 seconds ahead of the next car, and that's just the nature of the field spread in Formula One sometimes.
Last year, Sainz got a collision, pitted, safety car, finished way out below points. So
basically put him out of the points and almost last, didn't it? And that's the problem. So a 10-second penalty for somebody at the front of the field might seem like nothing if the cars are spread out as they naturally do throughout the race. But if that 10-second penalty had gone to Hulkenberg, he probably wouldn't have even finished in the points, I don't think, or he would have finished behind Perez, probably his teammate.
Yeah.
So they can't. It's a tough one because it does look like a nothing penalty, but then they can't kind of adjust the penalty based on the race situation because the race situation could be different at any given time as well. So
yeah. Plus, I think if Lando can't make it back and he puts his car there, it's a safety car. The safety car hits Max out of the points as well.
Exactly.
So
that's the other thing. So he could have pitted. So he pitted before he got the penalty, so he couldn't serve the penalty in the pit stop. So he could have pitted. He could have come back out. Anything else could have happened during the race to cause a safety car or a red flag, and suddenly that 10-second penalty just wipes Max out from the race.
It can also start to happen lap 1, but then usually they don't give the penalty. But I mean, get it lap 1, you're done because you have to do an Alonso and actually stand still for 10 seconds during your pit stop. So
yeah. The thing is, you're going to look at that and think, well, Max was lucky, and in some ways he was lucky.
He was lucky to actually keep the car in one part, bring it home.
But that's the way it goes. Like his car basically stopped and caused a red flag in first practice, and it ended up being basically nothing. And 6 or 7 years ago, everyone was looking at Lewis like, oh, he's so lucky, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, luck plays a part in winning championships. You're lucky to be in a car like Max last year. He was lucky to be in the most dominant car that's ever been in Formula One, I think.
We still have the bronze.
What, sorry?
We still have the bronze car, so.
Well, yeah, he still has to drive it, but he still ends up with that. That's... that there is an element of luck there.
No, but I mean, I agree. But let's back on the penalties. I think the penalties aren't that big. The fact he wasn't under investigation or noted or anything because of the moves before that is my fact. And let's not continue there. But that's why I said it's not dirty driving, else it would be on an investigation. Well, but the penalty he got is deserved, and I think 10 seconds is already harsher than we ever got.
I think they should have at least looked at it and maybe given some sort of warning or something, because I think this is why I think that collision was always going to happen, is because the driving was so on edge. Somebody needed to be told that's getting a little bit too close. Like, even if it was investigated and no further action, that sort of warning, GP would have said to Max, we're under investigation for the defending that we've just been doing. That is enough of a message to Max to maybe cool down a little bit, and that could have saved the collision, because Lando could have made the same move that he kept trying to do down the inside, and he could have actually made it, and then that, the scenario then doesn't play out the way that it actually played out with the collision. So I think
they give the penalty for Lando earlier. Let's not get there.
Well, they could have done, but they were the same with everybody on that. True. I mean, it's a clear-cut thing. But the only thing I would say on that one is that they maybe did need to look at it and look at things like, the telemetry and GPS data on that, because
at least to get the dirty driving story out of the world or confirm it. Period. Yeah. I think that helped for fans as well, honestly.
I think the reason why it took so long with Lando's off-track excursion for his final time that got him the 5-second penalty is because it happened during such an intense fight with Max, and they would have had to look at that and say, was that because he braked an extra 5 meters later than he was already braking late, or was it because of Max's defense that kind of caused him to come off the brake to move to then go back on the brake, and that, so they had to look at the data on that one. So I don't.
True.
They could have let him off with that potentially.
Talking about track limits, last thing I have to say, perfect solution in Austria.
Yeah. Just do that more
one
often.
strip of gravel.
Yeah.
And
The only issue it did cause was that a lot of gravel ended up on the track, and that is slightly dangerous. Even if they're turning and they get pinged back, because we talk about it being gravel, it's not really gravel. It's very big stones. It's not like tiny little pebbles of gravel. Like they are
just
significant stones. If someone's turning so their hand's exposed and they get hit by one of them at speed, like I can't even imagine how painful that would be. Potentially could break a finger or something. So, yeah, it was a good solution for stopping track limits, but the amount of debris that ended up on the track was maybe not great. But
yeah, last year we were 150 plus track limits.
Last year we ended
just
up
a fraction. So
yeah, last year we ended up with Fernando jumping up like however many places in the race. It felt like 2 days after the race. It was that long.
Yeah, so I think this is a perfect solution. And also with the new blue bars, I can spot way easier if it's done. Yep. So I like the solution. Yep. And I feel sorry for Piastri, but I mean, that's also the way the cookie crumbles on.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the same for everybody. Yeah, so yeah.
All right, James, looking forward to Silverstone.
I can't wait. Yeah,
I can. I'm so anxious
especially
for this
after this weekend we just had. It was phenomenal for Formula One. It was exciting. It was a thrilling battle. I hope we get more of that, preferably without an accident this time.
If you still want to send me that message, I'm at F1 in focus. James? No.
Send them to me. I don't really check X, Twitter all that much anyway. So.
No, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to us. And if you are listening or watching us on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, that subscription, that 5-star review. It's all free and it will allow us to keep growing. Thank you very much. See you next week, James.
Yep. See you later.
See you later. Bye-bye.